people think of the world as a discovered place, and they imagine that everything is known and mapped and seen in some way, and that is broadly true. But in many ways, there are parts of the world that we've never seen, that people have never seen, and undiscovered caves are some of those places. When we found this cave, we were the first people to see it. We mapped it, we were the first people to map it, and there are probably dozens, hundreds, or even thousands of caves just like this that have no entrance, that you don't know are underneath you, and that we will never know are there. I'm John Dunham. I've been caving since 2003, I believe. That is a long time ago. That's 18 years, I think. There's no wizardry involved. Merlin is one of the neighbors and lives on top of the hill, and he'd let us go hiking around behind his house looking for interesting cave features. We were following geologic maps, including indications of where the marble is and where the thrust faults are, and so that was just the way that we hiked in to begin with. We found the cave in 2006, and at that point it wasn't an accessible cave. It was just a small hole with a stream going into it. We were able to remove some rocks and move some stuff that was in the way further in. You go in through a little bit of a tube, and then you go under a crawlway, and then you come out into a wider but still very low crawly section of the cave. And that first section of the cave is what we got into in 2006 in the fall. And then there was some additional digging work that was done in that area inside the cave, and we found a bunch of different little crawlways, and one of them led to a place that we called the bear trap.
Under the wall here is the bear trap, which used to have an animal trap washed in. This is really the end of the entrance series, and this is where a bunch of people turn around. It's pretty small.
That fissure eventually led to the majority of the cave, the other 1,800 feet of it, or there's a waterfall drop where you climb down.
When Bob Dion and I first got to this waterfall, I was like, it's big, it goes, and he was like, go down and make sure you can come back up before we do this.
So I can say pretty categorically that no human being was ever in the cave before we were in the cave. And the Native American peoples who lived in the area, the Abenaki mainly, did not go into caves as a regular part of their culture, and this cave wasn't open, so probably that means no one else was ever in the cave. When you go cave digging and you discover a new cave that no person has ever seen, it's kind of like going to the moon on your weekend. You're leaving footprints in a place that no one ever was before, and we do that ethically as much as we can and try to conserve those places. And that was as far as Bob Dion and I got. The excitement level when we got through the bear trap and saw a waterfall going off an 18-foot climb and big sculpted marble going down the walls was pretty high.
So second week we were in here with Bob Dion, Mike Taladera, and a number of other folks. We were up to right where you are, and Bob was there, and I started up this slope, started moving some rocks at the top, and he's like, oh, it'll take 5 minutes. Turns out that's where all the rest of the cave is.
It's very difficult to know exactly when a cave formed because you can't really date the things that aren't there, which are the rocks that went away, and that's really what you would like to know. At least some parts of this cave formed before glaciation, and that doesn't mean before all glaciation, but before the most recent glaciation, which is at least 30,000 years ago. 30,000 years ago is before human beings had developed agriculture. That's before most recorded history. There are human cultures that have been around for that long and were in North America at that time, but whether any of them were here is long since lost to the subsequent glaciations, which remade this landscape and paved over all of the evidence that we could have found of human habitation at that time. So Merlin's Cave is formed in Stockbridge marble, which is marble is a rock that used to be limestone and then got metamorphosed by heat and pressure. And in this case, it used to be alternating beds of dolomite and limestone. And as it metamorphosed into marble, you can see that all the dolomite, which is a lot harder, sort of broke into chunks and rolled. Like if you imagine a layer of really thin, stale Play-Doh, and you put soft Play-Doh on either side of it, and you just roll the whole thing into a ball. So all the softer calcite marble here is flowing around the broken pieces of dolomite, which have also been metamorphosed into dolomitic marble. And the whole cave is basically formed by these alternating beds, where you have the boudins of dolomite, and then you have the layers of calcite marble, and then more dolomite, and then more calcite. And that's why we get that waterfall hitting a resistant layer of dolomite, dropping off into the softer marble, and then flowing along some more resistant dolomite, and so on down. The alternating orange and blue marble is some of the prettiest stuff around in terms of caves. And I think that the colors in Merlins are world-class. Really just very pretty all the way along. That's part of why I love marble caves so much. So you always see some different colors, different alterations in the beds and the different minerals that are included in the rock. The whiter stuff is more pure calcite, and then the bluer stuff has more graphite. And then the orange dolomite is actually magnesium carbonate. And in the ironclad room, we had to run several different survey lines because there's actually literally iron in the boudins of dolomite, and that made the survey somewhat difficult. I think this isn't just random. This is footprints of things that have been alive and happening for millions of years. The limestone that we're looking at, the calcite limestone, that calcium is coming from shells and offshore deposits that are sea creatures slowly accumulating on the sea floor and being eventually their shells being compressed into rock, and then the rock being uplifted and twisted and compressed into marble. And then every carving on this wall is the footprints of water and streams that have flowed through here for thousands of years. So I look at this and I don't just see random shapes, I see the history of what's been happening here. And I think in some ways you don't need to imagine it. You can look back 15,000 years by looking at this wall. You can look back farther than that if you look at the original places the rock came from and not just where the cave came from. And if you look back even further than that, you can look back to the beginnings of life on Earth. So we're going to go back along the traverse line, and then we're going to climb down to the Fortress Canyon, which is all the beautiful blue and white and orange clean washed marble with waterfalls and everything. We're going to go down to the ironclad room at the bottom of the stream passage. So I do think about time, and there's an early geologist who said, no vestige of a beginning, no prospect of an end, in describing the geologic structure of the world. One of the first people who articulated geologic history and geologic time. Merlins is a blip, probably, even on that scale, as much as we're a blip in the history of this cave. When we first discovered the entrance of the cave 15 years ago, that's 15 years out of at least 15,000 that the cave has been developing since the glaciers, and parts of the cave have been around since even before that. So the 15 years is maybe 2,000 or 3,000 times less time than the cave has been forming, and probably the cave will go on forming long after people are here. If we are still here in 15,000 years, things will look very different. The cave is being impacted by climate change in the same way that many of the other things in this area are. There's been a strong increase in very heavy rain events in the past decade. Just since we've found the cave even, we've seen flood events that have washed out parts of the entrance, that have washed in extra soil and debris that was not in the cave before. I think there's a not insignificant chance that a flood event in the next couple of decades will collapse some part of the entrance passages. Whether or not that leads to something that we can't reopen, we just don't know. Merlins is now a preserve by the Northeast Cave Conservancy, so it's protected from logging damage, from heavy equipment driving over the cave, protected from development, from someone potentially putting a house on top of it and damaging the bat habitat. It protects the places that the now endangered bats can hibernate, and it protects a place that people can go see an important part of the natural world that they might not know was there.